Why were the Jewish leaders so determined to kill Jesus? Not oppose him, kill him. And not just once, but again and again. Then suddenly they picked up stones. No debate, no delay. So what did he actually say that made them react like that? Because whatever he said, they didn't hear confusion. They heard something very specific. And it starts here. This all takes place in John chapter 5. And what you're going to see is a series of escalations that maybe you didn't even realize were there before. But when you look into the context and what people were actually thinking at the time, you're going to see what Jesus really meant and what irked them so much. So it all starts with an invalid who had been invalid for 38 years. 38 years. So that's pretty much most of his life, probably. And what happened was, Jesus heals him. It's in the temple. Just a little correction here. It's not actually in the temple. It's by the sheep gate. It's called Bethsaida in Aramaic. They later moved to the temple for escalation. It's in the temple. Jesus heals him on the Sabbath. In the temple, Jesus heals him on the Sabbath. You've got to understand what this meant. So at that time, there was the thinking that God created the creation in 6 days and he rested on the seventh. But the thinking was that even though he rested from creating, he didn't rest from sustaining. So there are certain scriptures which tie into this, and it's also part of the Jewish thought with Philo and a bunch of other people that he didn't rest from sustaining. Okay, so God's work was still carrying on in that he was sustaining the universe. Okay, so let's go back. Jesus heals this man on the Sabbath, and then after he heals this man on the Sabbath, he gets up and Jesus tells him to take his mat and walk. He picks up his mat and he walks. He bumps into the Jewish leaders, and they say to him, "Why? It's a Sabbath. Why are you doing this? Why are you walking around with your mat?" And he says, "The man who healed me told me to take up my mat and walk." "Who is it that told you to take up your mat and walk?" they said. He says, "I don't know at that time." Okay, right. So then Jesus later comes back, and you've got to understand, Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. Jesus knew exactly the caliber of this guy. So he goes back to this guy and tells him, "Okay, sin no more, so that something worse doesn't happen to you." Then the man picks himself up and tells the Jews, "Oh yes, it was Yeshua, Jesus, Yeshua, who told me to take my mat and walk." So then, this is where the whole story now begins. Because what happens is they then approach Jesus and they're questioning Jesus about picking up, about telling this man to pick up and walk on the Sabbath. What does Jesus say? What does Jesus say? "Oh, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. You know what? I forgot." No. Jesus says, "In the temple, my Father," okay, so in the temple, my Father, not our Father, my Father. Okay, so that's very specific. He's attributing the Father to himself. My Father is working until now, and so am I. He's put himself in the same category with God. And this wasn't missed by the Pharisees at all. They saw that immediately. They saw that with immediate effect. So let that sink in. And this is just how the escalation begins. Jesus makes himself equal with the Father. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The best way to actually really to get to this is to actually just read it from the scriptures. And with the framework that we've just looked at, you'll really see where we're getting at with this and what Jesus was saying and what they were hearing. That's the important thing. You've got to hear what they were hearing through their frameworks and through their knowledge of the Son of Man in Daniel. Okay, so let's go. So because Jesus was doing these things on the Sabbath, the Jews were persecuting him. Jesus said to them, "My Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working." He put himself in the same category as God. For this reason, The Jews tried to kill them all the harder because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but because he was calling God his own Father. Jesus gave them this answer. I tell you the truth that the Son of Man can do nothing by himself, but only what he sees his Father doing. That's what he does. Okay, so you got to. He's actually putting himself in the same category as God. He does the things that God does. He does the things that God does. Yeah. Put your hand up if you can say you do the things that God does. You can't. So, and it goes on. He says, yes, to your amazement, he will show him greater things than these. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he will, right? Whom he's pleased to. Jesus is now saying that he has the ability to give life to whom he wants. Throughout the Bible, throughout the scriptures, there's only one who can give life to the dead. That's God alone. He raises the dead. Jesus is saying, yeah, that will also be me. But wait, there's more. Moreover, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son. He has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that they may honor. Well, before we get there, he has entrusted all judgment to the Son, who in the scriptures judges the living and the dead. Who in the scriptures judges the living and the dead? Well, that would be God. God only is the only one. Jesus is saying, yes, that will be me. I'm in that category. Then it goes on. He says, who does not honor the Son does not, well, let's go back a bit. It says, moreover, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that they may honor the Son. That they may honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. That they may honor the Son in the same way they honor the Father. What do we call it when we honor a king? We call it honor. It's respect. Give them what they due. And the key thing is give them what they due, right? What do we call it when we honor God? When we give him what he's due? It's worship. How do you honor God without it being worship? Because if you give God what he is due, what is he due? He is due worship. Right? Jesus is saying that we honor that the Son, him, will be honored in the same way that you honor the Father. What sort of honor would that be there for? It will be worship. It's not just bowing down. It's not just obedience. It will be worship, to honor the Father in the same way that you honor the Son is called worship. And Jesus is saying, yes, I am in that category too. But wait, there's more. So he's given him all authority to judge the living and the dead. He's to receive worship. He's to give life to whom he will. And he says that there will come a time when all who are in the graves will hear his voice and come out. Those who have done good will rise to live, and those who have done evil will rise to be condemned. The Jews understood that. They understood. They had that belief of the final resurrection for the living and the dead. Well, yeah, for the living and the dead. It's not resurrection for the living, is it? But that final judgment. And Jesus is saying, yeah, I'm going to be the judge. They missed none of that. They understood all of it. They got it. And that's the thing that people need to realize. That's the thing that people really need to grab a hold of. These were really educated folk. Okay, they had studied, and yet a carpenter from a backwater place called Nazareth in Galilee. Strangely seemed to know all the same stuff. Interesting, isn't it? Jewish leaders so angry and want to kill him all the time. He didn't speak about God. Jesus spoke as God. And they heard it. They heard it loud and clear. They didn't misunderstand. In modern day society, we seem to misunderstand. I'm not quite sure why. It's right there. And they got it. And Jesus didn't just do that. He also demonstrated who he was. He demonstrated who he was by fulfilling scriptures, by fulfilling prophecies, by rising from the dead, and by doing miracles amongst them. And then know it fit, because even though they couldn't necessarily put the pieces together as quickly as they ought, he actually reminded them. He said, Abraham saw my day and he rejoiced. Abraham saw my day. So that was pre-incarnate. That was pre-incarnate. Jesus appeared to Abraham. One of the guys who appeared in the Sodom and Gomorrah pericope just before. So they knew it was a thing. They could put all the pieces together, especially when Jesus reminded them. They could put all the pieces together. They knew about this, and yet they still chose what they chose. They still chose what they chose. If you enjoy this sort of scripture, deep dive scriptures, you're gonna find how Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He is one with the Father throughout the scriptures. Yeah, just subscribe and just follow for more, and take a look at some of our other videos. So you will hear again and again in different ways why it is scripture, why it is the only. If you hold to tota scriptura, we believe in the whole of the scriptures. Why it is the only consistent way to believe that the one being of God, is shared between three divine persons: Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it has been the belief. It has been belief of from Christians from the very beginning. And I hope you really enjoyed it, going on this journey and learning new things and how to share this with others. Thank you very much.